On the dreary road to finalize our divorce, I suddenly unlocked a completely unhinged superpower. I could hear my wife's innermost thoughts. My aloof, emotionally constipated, absolute ice queen of a wife was currently sitting next to me, looking at me with a surface-level expression of sheer, unadulterated disgust. But inside her head, a completely different, wildly dramatic voice was screaming at the top of its lungs. "Hubby, no, I absolutely do not want a divorce. What if I fake a medical emergency right now? If I say my tummy hurts, will that work? Hubby, please don't leave me." A stunningly gorgeous girl with flawless fair skin, legs for days, and a face card that never declines like me. If someone else picks me up off the streets, they are absolutely, positively never returning me to you. Finders keepers. Hearing this chaotic broadcast, I couldn't help but freeze completely in the driver's seat. Wait a minute, did I just hear something? Uncertain, I cautiously peeked at the rearview mirror, only to see my wife sitting in the passenger seat. She was staring out the window, her face as cold and unreadable as a marble statue. Okay, maybe it was all just a bizarre auditory hallucination, just my mind playing tricks on me. Tentatively, testing the waters, I asked, "If we go through with this divorce, it won't have a massive impact on your life, right?" Hearing my words, Chloe didn't even blink. She replied with a chilling flat tone that could freeze a volcano. "It won't have any major impact. However, people in our elite social circle have a tacit, unspoken rule. There is no such thing as a divorcee, only a widow. I just want my hubby's cuddles and forehead kisses." Hearing this voice loud and clear for the second time, I hesitated and stole another sideways glance at the passenger seat. Chloe was still wearing her exquisite frosty little face, not a single muscle twitching out of place. Right, this definitely wasn't an auditory hallucination anymore. So, the reality was, I could actually telepathically eavesdrop on my wife's inner voice. I was 100% certain her pretty little mouth hadn't moved a single millimeter just now. As if sensing my intense staring, Chloe suddenly turned her head to meet my gaze perfectly. "I'm feeling a bit under the weather today. Can we postpone the divorce paperwork until next time?" Internally, she was throwing a full-blown parade. "Chloe, you are so brave. You finally managed to say it out loud. Hubby, please. I'm begging you, say yes. Let's go home and cancel." I can throw a tantrum, I can act cute, I can be a domineering's boss babe or a sweet, clingy baby girl. You want black tights, white knee-highs, fishnets? Tell me your aesthetic. Hubby, what flavor do you actually like? I can adapt, I can do it all. At this exact moment, I just felt a massive headache brewing behind my eyes. It was too loud, but I was absolutely, undeniably certain that this was Chloe's true inner voice. After a long moment of hesitation, I sighed and spoke up. "All right, let's just head back home for today." Hearing this absolute victory, I could visibly see her eyes light up like literal fireworks, but she immediately reined it in. She tightened her delicate facial muscles, feigning a highly reserved, aristocratic nod. "All right, whatever you say, we'll head back." On the entire drive back home, Chloe finally breathed a massive sigh of relief in her heart. Not only was she happily humming upbeat pop tunes in her head the entire way, but she also kept chanting, "Hubby, hubby, hubby," on an endless looping playlist. It was only then, after 2 years of marriage, that the realization hit me like a truck. I didn't understand my own wife at all. Wait a minute. What happened to the high and mighty untouchable goddess professor? Who on earth is this clingy, whiny, extremely thirsty little chatterbox? Truth be told, Chloe and I had what you'd call a flash marriage. We agreed to casually cultivate our romantic feelings after tying the knot. But reality hit hard. We were both drowning in our respective careers, and Chloe's personality was just too frosty to approach. Rather than a married couple in love, our dynamic felt more like two polite roommates splitting the rent. After all, we had been sleeping in separate, completely detached bedrooms this entire time. Upon arriving home, we entered the house one after the other, maintaining our usual awkward distance. "I'm not feeling well, so I'm going back to my room to rest," she stated blankly. But as she gracefully turned to head upstairs, the mental broadcast resumed at maximum volume. "I need to rush online right now and Google how to coax your husband 101. Oh right, my tactical gear. I need to dig out my thigh-high stockings. I don't even know what specific type hubby is into. How can I casually and naturally strut in front of him wearing them without looking desperate? Ah, this is so annoying. Why on earth does hubby like those aloof, arrogant ice cube girls? He can simp for an ice block, but he can't simp for me? Look at me. Wait, hold up. Who the hell ever said I like ice cube girls? That is pure, unadulterated slander and defamation of my character." But honestly speaking, this massive comical contrast sparked an intense burning interest in Chloe within me. Most importantly, her internal tone definitely didn't sound like a woman who had zero romantic feelings for her husband. I felt like there might be a massive, universe-sized misunderstanding wedged between us. Unfortunately, for the rest of the afternoon, I didn't see Chloe step out of her room even once. I guess the physical distance between our rooms was too far, so my Wi-Fi connection to her thoughts dropped, and I couldn't hear a thing. I had a dinner appointment scheduled with an important client that evening, so I walked over, knocked on her door to politely inform her, and prepared to head out. A cold brief "got it" echoed from inside. As expected, the moment she spoke, her heart started bawling its metaphorical eyes out again. "Wah! Hubby hasn't eaten a meal with me in ages. He's always out meeting clients and doing business stuff. But this is hubby's career. He definitely likes obedient, sensible, independent wives. It's totally because I'm not sensible enough that he wants to divorce me, isn't it? Ugh. Crying makes my face puffy and ugly. I'll need to grab an ice pack for my eyes in a bit." Wait, why was she crying? Over a dinner appointment? Inexplicably, my emotions were a chaotic, tangled mess. After all, My mental image of Chloe had always been the high and mighty female professor who looked down on mortals. I never in a million years imagined that deep down she was a needy, clingy little crybaby who just wanted attention. After successfully negotiating the project with the client and securing the bag, I returned home earlier than expected. Fresh out of the shower, I lay spread eagle on my bed, my brain buzzing with the day's absolutely bizarre events. The main question haunting me was, are we still going through with this divorce or what? My personality has always been decisive. I've never been one to drag things out. Before finalizing a life-altering decision like divorce, I needed to sit down with Chloe, have a real talk, and figure out exactly what was going on in that chaotic head of hers. Just as I was deep in thought, a soft knock came at the door. Snapping back to reality, I sat up against the headboard. "Come in." I looked up to see Chloe standing awkwardly at the doorframe. She must have just finished showering. Her long, damp hair cascaded beautifully down her back. Her usually sharp, intimidating peach blossom eyes were slightly downcast, giving her a surprisingly pitiful, delicate, and vulnerable vibe. "Do you need something?" I awkwardly averted my gaze, mostly because I was still mentally scarred by her unhinged internal monologue from this morning. It was the middle of the night, a grown man and a beautiful woman alone in a bedroom. It was incredibly hard not to let the mind wander to various adult extracurricular activities. My chest still feels a bit tight and uncomfortable. "Could you take a look for me?" Her voice had lost a significant amount of its usual chill, replaced by what sounded remarkably like genuine shyness and embarrassment. And then came the mental screaming. "Hubby, please, please don't reject me. I will literally cry a river right here. I spent the entire night preparing for this." I gave myself a 3-hour psychological pep talk in the mirror. "But I'm not a medical professional. If it's really that bad, I can drive you to the emergency room right now," I said, fully prepared to stand up and grab my car keys. But a soft, snow-white, delicate little hand shot out and firmly pressed down on my shoulder. "No need. I know what's wrong. It's just, what is it?" "Ah!" "Hubby, don't look at me with those intense eyes. The metaphorical deer in my heart isn't just bumping around. It's doing extreme parkour, crashed into a wall, and is currently dying of a concussion. I'm so nervous. He's so handsome. So swoon-worthy." Maybe it was because the thoughts echoing in my head were too chaotic, or maybe she was just vibrating with anxiety. Either way, I clearly heard her blurt out the forbidden word. "Hubby." She froze, then quickly continued. "My chest feels tight. Can you massage it for me?" In that exact moment, the room containing the two of us became deafeningly, awkwardly silent. I swear I could hear a pin drop. Even her hyperactive inner voice flatlined out of pure shock. The air in the room seemed to freeze into solid ice instantly. A second later, I looked at the gorgeous girl standing in front of me, her little face flushed beet red, her lips pressed so tightly together they were turning white. She refused to speak. Left with absolutely no choice, I had to take the initiative to break the tension. "Your chest is tight." No, it's not." Chloe was mentally weeping buckets of regret, wanting to punish herself with 3 straight shots of tequila for her reckless mouth. How on earth could she accidentally say her inner, unfiltered thoughts out loud? That was absolutely not the script she rehearsed. I just stared straight at her, waiting patiently for her to come up with some wild, convoluted excuse, or rather an explanation. But in the very next second, defying all logic, she suddenly reached out, grabbed my hand, and forcefully placed it right over her heart, gently biting her pink lower lip. "No, actually, yes, it is. My chest feels tight. If you massage it, it'll get better. Fortune favors the bold. Since I already messed up and said it, I might as well bravely pounce on him. Hubby, you can do this. Chloe, you can do this." My hand, which was currently pinned directly to her chest, twitched involuntarily. I swear on my life, my ancestors, and my bank account, it was a pure biological reflex. I hadn't meant to be a pervert, but honestly, don't judge me. It was actually quite soft. After my involuntary, accidental squeeze, the standing Chloe seemed to turn a shade of vibrant strawberry pink across every single inch of exposed skin. I remember there are some specific pills in the cabinet for chest tightness. I awkwardly tried to stand up, my posture incredibly stiff and unnatural. But Chloe, having already crossed the Rubicon, wasn't about to give up halfway and accept defeat. Seeing me try to get up and escape, her immediate reflex was to push me back down onto the mattress. However, she severely misjudged her own upper body strength. The next thing I knew, gravity took over, and she tumbled right onto the bed, taking me down with her. As we fell, Chloe seemed to have grabbed onto something solid. "Wait, does hubby have abs? I've done good deeds my whole life. I'm not greedy, I don't commit crimes. What's wrong with being a little bit of a thirsty pervert for my own legal husband? What if I take this golden opportunity to cop a feel? That's not asking too much, right?" My previously blanked out eyes finally rolled in their sockets. Hearing her shameless, incredibly thirsty thoughts made my own face heat up. I reached out and swiftly caught the little hand that was stealthily, gremlin-like creeping toward my stomach. "How about you get up first? You're crushing my lungs and now my chest feels tight." Sure enough, Chloe was only a savage, fearless beast in the safety of her own mind. Once I spoke aloud, she frantically scrambled, hands and feet flailing, to push herself off the bed, stuttering apologies on thinking back on the absolute chaos of the last 5 minutes, Chloe felt her entire body turn to jelly. Seeing her struggle to find her footing, I reached out to give her a hand. I meant to grab her shoulder to steady her, but due to the awkward angle and our tangled limbs, my hands somehow ended up wrapping around her waist. Chloe, who had almost managed to stand up, completely stiffened the exact moment my hands touched her waist. A second later, she melted into a boneless puddle and collapsed right back onto me. I was dumbfounded. My hands were still holding her waist. How could a fully grown adult suddenly go boneless and just flop onto me like a wet noodle? Look, when you do things like this, it's really hard for me not to suspect you're doing it on purpose, I said, my voice tinged with deep helplessness. No, my waist can't be casually touched. I mean, it's a bit hypersensitive. Hearing this, a distant memory suddenly clicked into place. Shortly after we got our marriage license, we were out eating when we bumped into some mutual friends. Playing the part of the loving husband, I had casually put my arm around her waist. The result? She instantly turned as rigid as a board. Her polite smile vanished completely, and she shot me a weird, almost glaring look. Of course, I noticed all of this. At the time, I thought I had severely overstepped her boundaries, so I quickly pulled my hand away in apology. There were a few other times I accidentally grazed her waist, and her reaction was always the exact same. Instant stiffness and a dark change in expression. Gradually, over 2 years, I began to firmly suspect that she just absolutely hated my physical touch. Everyone has their preferences. Like me, for instance, I do have a massive weakness for girls with a nice, slender waistline. But looking at the current situation, it seemed it was all a giant, monumental misunderstanding. What should I do? Knowing her waist was just ticklish and hypersensitive only made me more excited. Okay, maybe I really was the pervert in this relationship. 2.5 minutes later, we were sitting rigidly face to face on the living room sofa. She was looking at me with her signature cold, academic expression, though the furious blush on her face hadn't faded one bit. It looked like she was waiting for me to speak first and lead the conversation. But her inner voice was throwing a massive tantrum. Talk about what? Unless it's about falling in love and kissing. I don't want to talk to hubby about anything. The last time he said we needed to talk, it was about signing divorce papers. I reject this conversation. I obviously wasn't here to talk about romance and kissing right now. Even though seeing my wife look this the main point was that I could currently hear her inner voice, allowing me to finally decipher her bizarre, contradictory attitude. After thinking it over, I spoke calmly. Before, when I suggested a divorce, you agreed immediately. That's because you also knew our marriage had fundamental problems, right? Is that so? Actually, I don't think we have any problems whatsoever. Everything we do perfectly follows the prenuptial agreement we made before we got married. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure what your actual reasons for wanting a divorce are, but I've always respected your choices, she said. She then elegantly reached up with a slender, pale hand to gracefully tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. It was oddly, devastatingly seductive, if it weren't for the fact that her inner voice was currently destroying the elegant mood by crying her eyes out. Wah! Why does hubby want a divorce? Which basic, home-wrecking witch is trying to steal my man? Does she have a better hourglass figure than me? Is she prettier? Does she have more PhDs? Does she look more intellectual and aloof than me? Even though I'm completely faking it, I've faked it flawlessly for 2 whole years. Who is this fox spirit stealing my husband? This barrage of mental yelling made my temples throb in pain. My outwardly aloof, high and mighty wife was actually an unhinged, dramatic chatterbox on the inside. Was this a 2-for-1 personality deal? My brain was doing backflips, the mental noise too loud for me to even think straight. Unable to hold back my frustration, I snapped, "You, shut up first." Instantly, the world went dead silent. I realized something was wrong. I looked up at the girl across from me. Chloe's beautiful eyes filled with instant grievance as she mumbled softly. I didn't say anything. Oh my God, hubby is so fierce, but even when he's fierce and yelling at me, he's so incredibly handsome. I just want to kneel down right now and call him master. Chloe, you absolute freak. But if it's hubby holding the whip, maybe that's not such a bad idea. I'm kind of into it. Wait, what the actual? I was completely bewildered. She had that kind of kink? I was once again shocked into absolute silence. The pristine image of the untouchable goddess professor I held in my mind was collapsing faster than a house of cards in a hurricane. At this moment, Chloe watched me staring at her blankly with a horrified expression. She panicked internally, wondering if she had been too eager tonight and accidentally exposed her true, kinky nature. Why else was hubby acting so weirdly tonight? Finally spoke, interrupting her wild mental gymnastics. First, I had to clarify that my desire for a divorce had absolutely nothing to do with any fictional homewrecker or fuck. I just wanted to talk about our issues today. When I brought up divorce before, it was strictly based on what we agreed upon before getting married. If we lived together for a few years and felt absolutely no spark, or if one of us met someone else we genuinely liked, we'd divorce peacefully. When I brought it up, you agreed so quickly, I naturally assumed you also felt there was zero spark between us. Plus, didn't I hear that you still have a white moonlight crush in your heart? Some older senior from school? Hearing this, Chloe's expression grew even colder, her eyes hiding something deep, dark, and panicked within. So what you're saying is, you have someone else in your heart? Or are you saying you feel absolutely nothing for me? Was this spark totally one-sided on my end this whole time? Am I going to spontaneously combust from unrequited love? Hubby feels nothing for me. I am such a tragic, pitiful beauty. Chloe, I thought you felt nothing. I don't have anyone else. For the past 2 years, I've been so focused on building my company. I thought you'd grow tired of this mundane, passionless routine. After all, you didn't object to the divorce at all. And I heard that back in high school, you had a huge, unforgettable crush on an older senior. The ice-cold mask of the person sitting across from me shattered instantly into dust. The pink blush that had just faded came creeping back up her slender neck with a vengeance, completely engulfing her face. Seeing her extreme reaction, I completely forgot what I was about to say next. The tiny spark of hesitation and hope that had just ignited in my heart was snuffed out immediately. With a visceral reaction like that, it was hard to convince myself she didn't care about this mystery guy. So, Chloe really did have someone else living rent-free in her heart. I sighed and looked away. If you have someone else in your heart, there's no need to stay chained to me in a loveless marriage. I cannot accept my wife harboring deep romantic feelings for another man while sleeping under my roof. Another man? Chloe, who was already blushing furiously, was taken aback. At first, she thought I had discovered her dirty little secret and thought she was a massive pervert, hence the divorce. Hubby, why can't you accept that the senior I have a crush on is literally you? Fine, I'll just confess right now. But I'm so incredibly shy. Is now a good time to confess? Is it appropriate? Ugh, I knew I should have worn sexier, more revealing lingerie for this conversation. Hearing her inner monologue, the unforgettable white moonlight senior she liked was May, but I'm 2 years older than Chloe and she went to university abroad, so we definitely didn't go to the same college. The senior must have been from middle or high school, but looking at Chloe's flawless face, she must have been a very pretty, noticeable kid. There was no way I'd have zero recollection of interacting with her. Just as I was about to open my mouth and ask, I saw Chloe abruptly stand up from the sofa. When you brought up the divorce before, it wasn't that I didn't care or didn't have a reaction. There was a critical issue with an experiment at the university lab, so I had to rush back to work to fix it. As for that senior, he's entirely in the past. Her hands, resting at her sides, trembled slightly, betraying her anxiety. I really am not feeling well today. I think we should table this discussion for another day. What do you think? How about we set another time to talk properly? Outwardly cold and composed, Chloe was mentally wailing like an ambulance siren. I can't confess looking like this. My makeup isn't perfect, and my image is ruined. I need to find the absolute I really think girls have so much unnecessary mental baggage sometimes. I don't understand it, but I respect it. Plus, I desperately needed time to process this incredibly chaotic relationship dynamic too. At least what I knew for sure now was that the senior Chloe liked was me, even though my memory was completely blank on when we ever met. I nodded in agreement. Is 3 days from now okay? I have a business trip out of town tomorrow. Chloe gave a stiff, then nervously clutched the hem of her shirt, whispering, I'll go back to rest now. Good night. I echoed the good night, watching this girl, who looked completely composed and untouchable on the outside, but was screaming her head off like a fangirl on the inside, slowly walk back to her room. I leaned back heavily on the sofa, my eyes vacant, staring at the ceiling. Everything that happened today felt like a bizarre fever dream. Should I go see a psychiatrist tomorrow? But hearing her call me hubby over and over again in that sweet, desperate tone, it really was incredibly sweet. Meanwhile, back in her room, Chloe was rolling wildly around her bed like a burrito, her entire body burning up with embarrassment. She hugged a giant teddy bear tightly and covered her mouth to suppress a literal scream. Does Liam know? Does he know I've secretly loved him for years and years? But soon her genius-level IQ kicked in, and she realized something didn't add up. She sat bolt upright, tossing the bear aside. Wait, no! That makes zero sense. If Liam knew he was the senior I liked, he wouldn't have said he minds me having someone else in my heart, and he definitely wouldn't want a divorce. So how did he find out about the crush? That summer, many years ago, when the young girl first saw the boy, she was deeply, irrevocably captivated. The girl was smart, boasting an IQ. While kids her age were still playing in primary school, she had skipped grades all the way to the 3rd year of middle school. She never stayed in one class for long, which made her incredibly isolated and quiet. Eventually, the people around her, jealous of her intellect, started to bully her. One day after school, she was cornered in a dirty alleyway by some delinquent punks from the neighboring vocational school. Just as they were about to harass her, a boy passing by heard the commotion and ran over. Who bullies little kids? He yelled fearlessly, quickly chasing the punks away with his sheer bravado. He then turned, or do you have one of those fancy smartwatches to call your parents? Hearing this, the girl was absolutely stunned. She looked down at her uniform. It was clearly a middle school uniform, and she was already a 3rd-year student. How small did she look? At that moment, a few boisterous boys walked out of the alley and yelled, Liam, what are you doing, man? Let's go play ball, the boy replied over his shoulder. You guys go ahead, I'll catch up. I seem to have picked up a lost little kid. I need to drop her off at the police station first, so she doesn't get kidnapped. For some inexplicable reason, the girl memorized his name, Liam, and obediently followed him to the station without a word of protest. Once her frantic parents arrived, the boy handed her over to the police officers and left shortly after to play basketball. From that day on, the girl never, ever forgot the boy named Liam. Thinking of this core memory, Chloe pulled out her phone and furiously texted her best friend and tactical advisor, Mia. Mia, didn't you say your elite intel was that he absolutely likes aloof, quiet, intellectual types? I've been faking this Ice Queen persona for 2 solid years. Why doesn't he like me? And now he actually wants a divorce. Mia, receiving this text at midnight, replied instantly, Babe, I think your true, clingy personality is much more lovable anyway. I told you that intel might be hot garbage. So, did you guys actually sign the papers today? Chloe, no. I panicked, said I was sick, and ignored him. We came back halfway. And then, I don't know what got into my head, but I tried to seduce him. As you can see, since I'm currently texting you from my cold, lonely bed, I failed miserably. On the other end of the city, Mia stared at the text in absolute shock, her hands trembling as she typed back. Either he's medically impotent or you weren't sexy enough. There's no way a straight man would fail to fall for you. but that intel about his type came directly from his best bros, Zach. It shouldn't be wrong. Mia's text sounded incredibly hesitant. Chloe lay on her bed feeling utterly defeated and depressed. Plus, he asked me today if I've liked a senior for a long time. He said he absolutely doesn't want his wife having another man in her heart, so he wants a divorce. But there is no other man. It's always been him, Mia. Okay, this level of misunderstanding belongs in a 365-chapter romance web novel. This is ridiculous. Chloe, no way, I can't take it anymore. We agreed to talk it out properly when he gets back from his business trip in 3 days. I can't keep faking it anyway. I already threw myself at him tonight. I'm dropping the act. I'm going all in. The next morning, because I had an early flight, she walked out of the kitchen, looking domestic and beautiful, carrying a plate of perfectly toasted sandwiches and warm milk. Hearing my footsteps, she turned, gave a subtle, polite nod, and offered a faint smile. Good morning. I made breakfast. Want to eat together? A very plain, standard greeting, sounding just like her usual aloof self. But there was a massive difference today, because now I could hear her inner voice completely losing its mind. Ah, hubby looks so incredibly hot in a black button-down shirt. My knees are weak. I'm gonna pass out. I love it so much. Wait, crap. Why is hubby staring at me in silence? Say something. I'm going to start drooling if he keeps looking at me like that. I couldn't help but smile genuinely, nodding. Good morning. Thanks for your hard work making this. Sure enough, her brain started screaming and malfunctioning again, bordering dangerously on NSFW territory. I was genuinely amazed. Who knew this seemingly proper, highly educated girl was so wildly open and unhinged on the inside? Before, when she mentally babbled about fishnets and thigh-highs, I thought it was just her being dramatic. But hearing her internal R-rated broadcasts now, I realized it wasn't nonsense at all. She was just chronically, incurably thirsty for me. I found myself actually looking forward to what she'd think of next. On the surface, we ate our breakfast in absolute, refined silence. In reality, I felt like I was listening to a chaotic stand-up comedy routine in my head. Honestly, it was a fantastic way to wake up and start the day. Before leaving for the airport, I glanced at Chloe, hesitated for a second, and said simply, I'm heading out. The person who was mentally sobbing and thrashing around, Wah! I have to separate from hubby. I can't bear it. I'm going to die of loneliness. Suddenly widened her eyes in shock, nodded stiffly, and walked over. Have a safe trip. I nodded, grabbed the handle of my suitcase, and turned to leave. Chloe couldn't hold back her desperation anymore. Wait, your tie is crooked. Come, let me fix it for you, she said aloud, her voice slightly urgent. Internally, she was plotting a heist. Hubby, don't force my hand. Please don't make me bite you and drag you back to the bedroom. I'm better than gold. I'm a national treasure. Don't leave me. I was going to just rip the tie off anyway in the cab, since I only put it on out of strict habit and could fix it after landing. But hearing her desperate thoughts, my hands paused on the doorknob. I looked at the aloof girl and slowly said, Sorry, could you help me adjust it? I won't go back to a mirror. Okay. Chloe felt her actual voice might have sounded a bit too eager, and the sheer joy and excitement in those beautiful peach blossom eyes were painfully obvious to anyone paying attention. Chloe stepped uncomfortably close and reached out to fix my tie. The tie wasn't actually crooked at all. She just desperately wanted an excuse to be close to me. Other people get goodbye hugs and romantic farewell kisses when their husbands go on business trips. I have to invent my own lame excuses to touch his tie. But whatever, their husbands aren't a fraction as hot as mine. My hubby is the best. Being this close, I naturally heard her thoughts, unless I suddenly went deaf. But a hug didn't seem appropriate right now. After all, just yesterday we were planning a literal divorce. I coughed lightly. The delicate white hands resting on my tie paused before reluctantly pulling away. The crying stopped completely, replaced entirely by a frantic chant. Hubby, kiss me! Kiss me right now! Smooch! Attack me with your lips! But outwardly, she just gave a serene, unaffected, okay. I thought to myself, once we clear the air in 3 days, I absolutely have to cure her of this extreme tsundere habit. It's cute and all, but doesn't holding back such a massive emotional contrast hurt her brain? For the first time ever in my professional career, I found a business trip incredibly annoying. I hadn't even left the neighborhood yet, and I already wanted to cancel my flight and come back home to her. I was traveling with Zach this time. The VIP we were meeting was a hotshot screenwriter Zach introduced, who was supposed to connect us with more bigwigs in the industry. Over the years, my small, struggling studio had grown into a highly profitable mid-sized company. We had signed quite a few top-tier comic artists and released several original IPs that gained massive traction. When we met at the airport terminal, Zach looked extremely chipper, holding a coffee. He hesitated before asking, Bro, you're getting a divorce today. Why do you look so damn happy? Wait, don't tell me. You didn't go through with it? I shot him a sharp side eye. Your intel is pretty fast. How did you know I didn't go through with it? Ha ha, Zach laughed nervously, scratching his head. He couldn't exactly admit he was still secretly in contact with Mia. They had broken up centuries ago in a fiery mess. Admitting he still talked to his toxic ex would make him the laughingstock of our friend group. Plus, he definitely didn't want to confess that he accidentally leaked my personal preferences to Mia, acting as a double agent. Zach quickly tried to change the subject. Bro, your wife is a top-tier, undeniable beauty. If you divorce her, other guys will be lining up around the block to celebrate. Are you really willing to let a 10-10 go? Hearing this, I stopped walking and stared at Zach intensely without saying a single word. Feeling incredibly guilty under my death stare, Zach mumbled, What? Why are you looking at me like I stole your lunch money? I flashed a sudden, dangerous smile. You seem very, very invested in my wife's relationship status. Bro, don't talk nonsense. I have someone I like. I'm loyal. Zach waved his hands frantically in defense. I was just thinking, you told me before that your wife has had a white moonlight senior in her heart for years. By the way, how did you find that out? I thought to myself, thank God I can miraculously hear her inner voice now, or this stupid misunderstanding would have ruined my entire marriage. Zach didn't expect me to suddenly drop a bomb. Was it Mia who told you? Bro, don't get mad. You guys haven't spoken in ages, have you? What exactly did you two talk about? This immediately reminded me of Chloe's thoughts yesterday about me exclusively liking aloof, intellectual girls. I didn't even know I liked that specific type until yesterday. In fact, I definitely do not like that type. Elegant and intellectual? My older sister and my mom are like that. I don't have a weird Oedipus complex. I narrowed my eyes at Zach dangerously, cracking my knuckles. I had a strong feeling Chloe's massive misunderstanding was directly linked to him and his big mouth. I didn't say much, I swear. I just told her your type, Zach promised quickly, backing up. I saw how well you clicked with Chloe during your blind dates, so I figured, since Mia was asking, Chloe must be interested in you too. I just thought telling her your type would be a solid wingman move to help her secure the bag. No wonder. During our initial blind dates, Chloe wasn't this freezing cold. Although she didn't talk much, she smiled a lot, and her smile was genuinely beautiful. But after we got our license, she completely stopped smiling and turned into an ice statue. Combined with the misunderstanding about touching her hypersensitive waist, I truly believed she felt uncomfortable and disgusted around me. So this idiot is where it all started. I took a deep, calming breath. Other people's bros are elite wingmen who set you up for success. What the hell is my bro? A saboteur. And what exactly did you tell her my type was? Be specific. Elegant, intellectual, kind of an unapproachable flower on a high peak vibe. Zach said matter-of-factly, entirely too proud of himself. And how did you come to that genius, completely wrong conclusion? When you mercilessly rejected that cute junior's public confession back in college, you literally said to her face that you didn't like hyperactive, cute, clingy girls and that you vastly preferred independent, aloof, intellectual women. Zach's voice trailed off as he noticed my face turning the color of charcoal. Did he get it wrong? But he was there! He heard the audio! He remembered it perfectly. Through gritted teeth, I snarled. You really are my absolute best bro, with bros like you who needs a firing squad. You can't even tell the difference between a polite, face-saving rejection excuse and the actual truth. It was an excuse? Bro, you'd never dated anyone. How was I supposed to know if it was true or not? I just thought your standards were sky high and you hated cute girls. Well, at least I finally found the source of my wife's deeply flawed intel. Zach and Mia were entirely to blame for this 2-year farce. But I realized the biggest, most glaring problem still lay with Chloe and me. We had never communicated properly, never sat down to try to understand each other. 2 years of marriage, and it was still like this. The core issue was severe lack of communication. Meanwhile, Chloe was walking briskly to her university lab. As long as she wasn't around me, she acted completely normal. Calling her fake aloof wasn't entirely accurate, because to the outside world, she naturally wore an impenetrable Ice Queen armor. When she entered the lab, the 4 grad students huddled together instantly stood at attention, terrified. Good morning, Professor. Chloe kept her face blank, giving a curt dismissive nod. Morning. Let's go over the experimental data you submitted. Prepare to explain your methodology. She stayed in the lab from morning until afternoon, painstakingly correcting every single error they made. It wasn't until Mia called at exactly 6:30 p.m. that she realized how late it was. She glanced at her phone buzzing on the table but didn't pick up, her hands steady as she continued adjusting the equipment. 20 minutes later, the data was finally fixed. All right, it's late. You guys can head back to the dorms. Lily, a girl in a white lab coat, asked respectfully, Professor, would you like to grab dinner with us? You've been working all day. Kevin chimed in eagerly. Yeah, Professor. A new KBBQ place opened across the street. It's really good. Our treat. Chloe stood up, meticulously organizing her desk. No need. You guys go ahead. I just hope the next batch of data isn't off by this massive of a margin again. Do you understand what I mean? The 2 students straightened their spines, sweating bullets. Sorry, Professor. We'll be much more careful next time. Chloe nodded, said nothing more, and walked out of the lab with her designer bag. I'm starving to death. KBBQ! KBBQ! I'm getting KBBQ with Mia tonight. I want to grill meat for hubby so badly. Why did he have to go on a business trip? Kevin and Lily watched Chloe's retreating figure. Only when she was far down the hallway did they finally dare to exhale. Kevin sighed heavily. Our professor is drop-dead gorgeous, but she terrifies me more than my Asian mother. Lily grimaced. I used to think she was so pretty, and damn, her waist is insane like a model. I thought younger professors would be chill. Who knew she was this strict? She's a demon. Tell me about it. I wonder if she's like this with her husband at home. Who could survive that freezing aura? Later, Chloe sat in Mia's luxury sports car, sounding incredibly depressed. I'm telling you, your intel was totally 100% wrong. If it's wrong, then Zach is a dead man walking, Mia muttered through gritted teeth while aggressively switching lanes. Thinking about how close she came to signing divorce papers yesterday, Chloe's beautiful eyes filled with genuine tears. Mia, I don't want— I love him. You won't! I'm taking you to restock your arsenal right now! Mia beamed, a devious glint in her eye. Chloe trusted Mia blindly, so if Mia said no divorce, she believed it as gospel. As for the arsenal, she'd wait and see. But when Mia dragged her to the neon-lit entrance of an adult toy and lingerie boutique, Chloe's calm facade cracked completely. Inside, she was panicking. Can we really go in here? We're 2 girls. It's embarrassing. Mia, cool as a cucumber, dragged her inside by the wrist. Didn't you say your seduction attempt failed? It means your gear wasn't potent enough. Let me be your tactical advisor this round. We are leaving here with weapons of mass seduction. Is this really okay? Her voice was hesitant, but her feet obediently followed Mia's pull. Chloe didn't want a divorce at all. Despite thorough preparation and Zach's connections, there were too many people to meet. Arrogant screenwriters, stingy investors, the whole lot. What was supposed to be a quick 1 or 2 day trip dragged on for nearly a miserable week. I practically drank myself to the point of a stomach ulcer at banquets before finally securing a meeting at a major production company. Because of this nightmare schedule, my promised talk with Chloe was endlessly delayed. However, things were a bit different this time. Usually, I wouldn't hear a peep from her during a trip. This time, because I broke my promise, I called to apologize. I also wanted to test if I could hear her inner voice over the phone miles away. Unfortunately, no luck. The telepathy must have a range limit. Chloe was very understanding over the phone and didn't complain. But after that call, I started receiving daily good morning and good night texts, along with random mundane updates about. I could tell she wasn't used to doing this. The text read a bit dry, like a daily report. She even sent one asking, "Am I bothering your work? If I am, I'll stop texting." Reading that, I could perfectly picture her crying internally, biting her lip. I thought for a moment and replied, "No, it's very interesting. Reading your texts makes socializing and drinking with these old guys much less annoying." She replied with a simple "oh," but the updates came flooding in after that. Beautiful scenery on her commute, a fat stray cat on the sidewalk, what she ate for lunch. Even though I was gone for a week and incredibly busy, I felt much closer to her than when we saw each other every day in that silent house. A few days later, I finally flew back, but I didn't tell Chloe my flight details. I wanted to. Approaching her lab, I saw Chloe standing inside, her face like a block of impenetrable ice. Facing her were 4 students, roughly her age but completely dwarfed by her terrifying aura. I'll say this one last time. If you can do the work, do it. If you can't, apply to change advisors immediately. If you're too scared to tell the faculty you can't handle it, I'll go tell them myself right now. It was the first time I heard such overt, icy hostility in her voice. The old Chloe seemed cold, but her tone lacked this sharp, cutting edge. Watching her through the glass, wearing a crisp white lab coat and radiating an intimidating aura, I suddenly felt that I might actually be into the aloof, bossy type. It was kind of hot. Kevin knew he shouldn't be spacing out while being scolded, but the man standing in the hallway was just too eye-catching. He couldn't help but steal a few glances. Since they were the only ones in the lab, his distraction was painfully obvious. "Kevin, what are you looking at? Is the data you need out there in the hallway?" she snapped, turning her head to look. The high and mighty professor, whose face was frozen and voice was practically spitting ice just seconds ago, who had been mentally reciting monk chants to keep her cool, saw me. A flash of absolute shock crossed her eyes. Her mouth said nothing, but her brain was already hosting a Super Bowl halftime show. "Ah, hubby is back. Did hubby come to pick me up from work? Was I too mean just now? Hubby, don't misunderstand, I'm not a mean person, I'm super gentle and sweet. It's all this stupid experiment's fault and these disobedient dumb students. Excluding the morning we left, I haven't seen hubby for exactly 168 hours, or 10,080 minutes, or 6,4800 seconds. I missed my hubby so much I could die." Great. I was hooked, line and sinker. I nodded at her, gesturing for her to finish her work. I wasn't in a rush. Since hubby was here watching, Chloe lost all desire to scold anyone, but she couldn't make the shift too obvious. She turned back to the 4 students. Her face was still tight and serious, but the terrifying, oppressive aura was completely gone. "The mistakes I pointed out today, if you make them again, don't bother coming back to this lab. Let's not waste each other's time anymore." She waved them off dismissively. The 4 of them collectively exhaled, then all looked toward the window. They had seen the exact moment their professor caught sight of the man outside. Her entire vibe shifted instantly from demon lord to normal human. I didn't mind them staring. I just nodded cheerfully at them. Chloe coughed lightly, asserting dominance. "What? Do you want to stay and do more experiments?" "No, we're leaving!" She took off her white. Lily mustered the courage to ask, "Professor, is the man outside your husband?" Chloe, who had been sneaking glances at me and humming happily in her mind, "Hubby's first time picking me up. I'm winning at life," glanced at Lily and gave a reserved aristocratic nod. Internally, she was launching fireworks. "It's been so long. I've been wishing on stars every night for him to come back. But stars are in the sky and my handsome hubby is right in front of me." I watched her spout nonsense in her head while maintaining a flawless, calm exterior to dismiss her students. She walked out of the lab and stopped in front of me, offering a faint, polite smile. "Sorry to keep you waiting. I didn't know you were coming today. Are you here to see Professor Lin or Professor Zhang, my parents?" I naturally reached out and brushed an imaginary piece of lint off her glasses. "I came to pick you up for dinner. I'm sorry for breaking my promise." I said 3. When my hand brushed her cheek, Chloe felt her heart stop completely. The chaotic monologue went dead silent. "There was some lint on your glasses," I murmured softly. But Chloe's heart rate was already spiraling out of control. Crap. Just one little touch and I'm falling in love with him all over again. This marks the 998th time I've fallen for Liam. One more and it's 999. When will he ever fall for me like this? This thought was vastly different from the rest. There was a distinct trace of deep sadness and longing in it. I felt a sharp pang in my chest. Maybe I really needed to spend time truly understanding her, not just treating her like a cute roommate. We walked shoulder to shoulder down the quiet, tree-lined campus path. Well, quiet on the outside. In reality, I was attending a one-woman comedy roast. Yep, Chloe's inner voice. She could talk a mile a minute, dropping wild, flirtatious one-liners internally. When I heard her actively debating whether she should try to seduce me tonight by wearing the combat gear Mia bought her, I couldn't help but shoot her a side glance. Looking at her beautiful face instantly erased the exhaustion from my brutal business trip. Noticing it was dinner time, I asked, "What do you want to eat? Let's go grab something good." The girl who had just been fantasizing about grilling meat for her husband to show off her traditional wifely virtues just glanced at me and gave a tiny, indifferent nod. "Whatever you want." "Ah, Chloe, what is wrong with you? What does whatever mean?" "Hubby, I don't want whatever. You're supposed to be aloof, not an annoying brat. Can I take it back? I want to slap myself. KBBQ, KBBQ, KBBQ. I hope telepathy is real," I chuckled to myself. "Telepathy is very real, honey, and your broadcast is loud and clear." I smiled and said smooth, "Sure, whatever works." Her tone tried to be indifferent, but the tiny leap of joy in her voice was undeniable. Yes, we are absolute soulmates. I'm so happy. I want to kiss hubby right now on this sidewalk." Her joy was infectious. Seeing the atmosphere was a bit stiff, I took the lead. "Did your students do something to upset you earlier? You looked mad." The happy humming stopped. "It was just an experiment. I practically held their hands through it, short of doing the physical labor for them. But they doubted one of the critical steps, messed it up, and ruined the entire dataset. Doubting is fine, that's science, but you have to verify it. Instead, they stubbornly believed they were right and refused to check my method." When talking about her field, her tone was dead serious, her brows slightly furrowed. "The worst part is, this isn't the first time. I've proven them wrong and me right several times before. They don't listen. Did hubby think I looked scary when I was yelling? I'm not scary at all. I'm super gentle. I don't even care about some stupid experiment. I come from a family of researchers anyway. This is just my job." She lowered her voice, adding aloud, "Sorry, is this really boring to listen to? My life is pretty boring. Just experiments, research, and data. And now my husband. You're a boring person. No wonder hubby doesn't like you," she thought, her mood visibly dropping like a rock. I quickly and earnestly explained, "It's not boring at all. I find it really interesting. Even though I'm not in your field and don't understand the jargon, I love learning about new things, especially things you care about." Her eyes lit up instantly. It was the first time in the past, I just hadn't been willing to put in the time to look closely and understand her, which led to all these stupid misunderstandings. Soon we arrived at a nearby popular KBBQ joint. Because of my reassurance, Chloe seemed to relax completely. She quickly ordered, and when the meat arrived and the waiter offered to cook it for us, she blurted out, "No thanks! I'm going to grill the meat for my husband myself." Last time I ate here with the other professors, they all had people grilling for them. Whatever they have, my hubby will have too. I will treat him like a king. What kind of backwards logic is that? Even if she was jealous, shouldn't I be the one grilling for her to show off my husband's skills? Her brain operates on a completely different, weirdly traditional frequency. But I soon realized I had vastly overestimated her culinary skills. The moment her delicate fingers accidentally touched the hot grill plate, she let out a sharp, painful ouch! I immediately grabbed her hand. An angry red burn mark was glaringly obvious on her pale skin. It looked really painful. The girl who was mentally crying, "Wow, it hurts so bad," suddenly changed her tune the second I held her hand. "Wait, are we holding hands? If hubby kisses it better, that would be perfect. The pain is worth it." I was frowning at her injured hand, but hearing her inner whining, I felt helpless. Kissing it was out of the question right now in public. I blew on it gently, then looked up at the visibly stunned girl. "Does it hurt a lot? Should I ask the staff for burn ointment? Or run out to a pharmacy to buy some?" "No need." Looking at the deep tenderness in my eyes, Chloe completely forgot about her Ice Queen persona. She stuttered, "I'm fine. It doesn't actually hurt that much." Because her skin was so fair, the red welt stood out sharply. To me, it was an eyesore. But Chloe was already gently pulling her hand back. Not because she didn't want the contact, but because my intense stare was making her incredibly shy. Her hands felt weak. Though she drove like a maniac in her mind, she was incredibly thin-skinned in reality. Since I couldn't hear any panicked thoughts, just saw her awkwardness, I let go. But my eyes stayed fixed on her hand. Eventually, I pressed the service bell. Since this was a barbecue place, burns probably happened often. They actually had burn ointment on hand. Chloe haphazardly applied it herself. When the waiter asked again if we needed help, she didn't dare refuse. She had wanted to show off her wifely skills and ended up embarrassing herself. But I waved the waiter off. "I'll do it. Leave the tongs." I grabbed the tongs and started grilling. My practiced, smooth movements made Chloe's eyes go wide. She watched me effortlessly toss the perfectly grilled. "I know how to grill. Let me do it," I said. "When I was in college, I worked at a barbecue place for a month. I was completely broke. Was it during that time Professors Lin and Jiang tried to cut you off to force you to switch to a STEM major?" I remembered it well. During the second semester of my freshman year, I posted some angsty, depressed stuff on social media. A friend commented, telling me to just go home and apologize to my parents. I replied, "I won't starve to death, and I'm absolutely not going back to do academic research." Through chatting with mutual friends later, Chloe had learned that my family cut me off because they violently opposed me studying finance. They said it was useless for ordinary families. "How do you know about that?" I was genuinely surprised. That happened during my freshman year. It was a brief stint, and very few people knew about it. How did she know? Chloe panicked. She had been too relaxed and let it. She wanted to say she heard it from Zach, but meeting my direct gaze, she fell silent. Finally, she whispered, I secretly followed your social media back then, but I was a freshman. You're younger than me. Weren't you in high school?" Seeing her finally bring up the past, I thought this was the perfect chance to clear the air. My tone softened as I guided the conversation. So we actually knew each other back then? Chloe's face flushed. The burn on her hand felt like it was radiating heat, but she had already applied the ointment. She thought about many things. When solving complex physics equations, she never hesitated. But in the chaotic realm of love, she always second-guessed. She didn't want to fake being aloof forever. She wanted me to know her true, thirsty self. But she was terrified of rejection. I didn't rush her. I could hear her inner voice. I could hear her deep-seated fear. Honestly, I was shocked. This girl seemed to love me so incredibly much. But I had wondered more than once, when did we actually meet? If it was during the blind dates, the senior crush timeline didn't match up at all. When you were a freshman, I had already left the country. I was a sophomore abroad. Even knowing my wife was a certified genius, I still had to say, damn. Chloe glanced at me. Seeing my shock, she quickly explained, "You're amazing too, way more amazing than I thought." Ah, hubby praised me. So happy, I'm flying. Bolstered by the praise, she finally gathered her courage and blurted it all out. Actually, before I went abroad, we met. Back then, you thought I was a lost primary schooler and dragged me to the police station. A rare look of utter confusion washed over my face. Ah, did that happen? Chloe looked embarrassed but pushed on. I was a late bloomer. Even though I was in third-year middle school, I hadn't hit my growth spurt. I really couldn't remember. It was clearly a random act of kindness I did as a kid. How could I remember a tiny detail like that years later? Seeing that I didn't remember, Chloe looked crestfallen, but she quickly sketched out the details. That semester, the middle school's third-year classes were temporarily moved to the high school campus because a building collapsed. I remembered the building collapse. But looking at the striking, gorgeous woman oozing boss babe energy right in front of me, I absolutely could not picture her as a tiny, mistaken primary schooler. How tiny must she have been? Guessing my thoughts, Chloe blushed fiercely. I skipped a lot of grades, and I really hadn't developed yet. But I was definitely slightly bigger than a primary schooler. You weren't entirely wrong. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then you must have been a very cute primary schooler. Chloe froze, staring at me blankly. I smiled openly. I always wanted a cute little sister back then. If I voluntarily took you to the police station, you must have been adorable. Otherwise, at that age, I wouldn't have bothered playing hero. Looking at Chloe, my eyes crinkled with mirth. I can tell you were a cute little sister back then. You're so beautiful now. You must have been even cuter then. I want to be your wife. I don't want to be your sister. I want to be your wife and have your babies. I was just using an analogy. I didn't actually want to suddenly gain a sister, I corrected myself. Seeing the person across from me blushing furiously, I suddenly felt that this was perfectly fine too. Just now, I finally realized that the white moonlight senior my wife had harbored a crush on for years was actually me. Right now, Chloe was dying of embarrassment over her unfiltered confession. Calling me her white moonlight wasn't exactly accurate, but technically, I was her only white moonlight. I lowered my eyes, afraid that if I saw her adorable, conflicted expression, I might lose control. I reached out and poured her some barlessy tea. Even with the partition curtain, we could hear faint chatter from outside. But the clearest sound in my ears was the frantic beating of her heart, and the echoing thought, "I've only ever liked Liam. I've only ever liked you, nobody else." After what felt like an eternity, Chloe slowly spoke up. "Liam, before, when you asked for a divorce, it was because you thought I had someone else in my heart, and you didn't want to hold me back. But now that you know it's a massive misunderstanding, are you willing to give us another try?" I looked at her seriously. Influenced by her, my mood lifted. Suppressing her immense joy, Chloe feigned a cool indifference. "Okay, let's try starting today. Is this the feeling of finding a village in the dark? I'm going to date my hubby. Wait, that sounds weird since we're married. Whatever, I'm so happy, so incredibly happy." Listening to her joyful thoughts, I met her sparkling eyes. But her exquisite little face showed very little emotion. I couldn't resist adding, "Actually, you having Mia investigate my type." The intel was slightly off. I don't actually like the aloof, intellectual type, at all. Chloe's eyes snapped wide open. You knew, and I've been doing it wrong this whole time?" Her voice trembled. "Then, what type do you like?" Before, I wasn't really sure. But lately, I think I've figured it out. How about you just be yourself and we'll see. After all, we're husband and wife. We're going to spend our whole lives together. On the drive home after dinner, Chloe only had one thought echoing in her brain. "Hubby knows. He knows I was faking it. He knows everything. The clown was me all along. But I'm actually a genius. I got him." In the car, the smile never left my face. Being with Chloe truly melted away my exhaustion. I was incredibly excited to see what her true personality would look like without the Ice Queen filter. When we got home, I was about to head to my room when she called out to me. She explained earnestly and quietly, I wasn't totally faking it. I really am like that around my students. It's just, with people I'm close to, I can be a bit clingy and loud. I was afraid you wouldn't like that." I smiled. "How will you know if you don't try?" She tilted her head, studied my smiling face for a moment, and then smiled back, looking relieved. "Okay, I'll try. I just never expected." The next morning, I found a massive breakfast spread on the table along with a sticky note. "Good morning, hubby. I have class today, so I headed to campus early. If the food gets cold, just heat it up." After breakfast, I headed to the office. While I was deep in work around noon, Chloe called. She said she made lunch and was coming over. Soon she appeared in my office carrying an elaborate bento box. Her face was practically radiating pure, unfiltered joy. When others were around, she played it cool, but right now she looked adorably goofy and eager to please. Once I finished up, we sat side by side to eat. Seeing the rich spread of dishes, I was genuinely curious. I didn't know you were such a good cook. We were usually so busy we rarely cooked at home, mostly eating out or ordering delivery. Chloe smiled proudly. I went abroad really early, so I had to learn everything myself. Once I became an adult, my mom moved back to China and stopped accompanying me. I noticed that since we cleared the air yesterday, she stopped keeping her guard up. She actually loved to smile, and smiling made her look even younger. Judging by her inner voice, she really just had the heart of a young, smitten girl. Lunch took a while, but it was highly rewarding. I felt like I understood her so much better now. After eating, although she was internally whining about not wanting to leave, "I want to stay in hubby's office forever," she packed up the boxes swiftly. I reached out to help, and our hands accidentally brushed. Instantly, she froze, glanced up at me, and whispered, I'm shy." I blinked, then burst out laughing. "Wifey, you're a bit too cute." Praised as cute, she bit her lip to suppress a massive grin, too embarrassed to meet my eyes, her face burning brighter by the second. I raised an eyebrow. "I called you wifey. Shouldn't you return the favor and call me hubby? That's not too much to ask, right?" She gently chewed on her lower lip, twisting her fingers together, blushing furiously but staying silent. I wasn't in a rush. I turned and grabbed the burn ointment I bought that morning from my desk drawer. "Did you apply ointment last night?" Seeing she wasn't ready to call me hubby out loud, I didn't push it. Chloe felt a mix of relief and deep disappointment. She had screamed hubby a million times in her head, but saying it to my face was terrifying. "I applied it last night." Reminded, she looked down at her injured hand. I walked over with the ointment. The red burn from last night was stark against her pale skin. "Your hands are for doing delicate experiments. How can you be so careless? Let's put some ointment on." I placed the tube in front of her. To my surprise, she just blinked, then bravely extended her hand toward me. "This is my right hand. My left hand is clumsy. Can you do it for me?" I looked at the hand offered to me, desperately wanting to point out that she applied it herself last night perfectly fine. But I reached out and took her hand anyway. She handed me the ointment, having considerately popped the cap off, and stared at me with wide, expectant eyes. "Hubby's hand is so hot. My hand is melting. I'm melting." Unsurprisingly, during the brief time it took to apply the ointment, I was treated to another roller coaster ride via her inner voice. Outwardly, she looked perfectly calm, almost stoic. But inside, she was already shouting about going to a private beach and making me rub sunscreen all over her body. By the time I finished, her face was slightly flushed. Thankfully, because she treated it quickly last night, it hadn't blistered. I lifted her hand to my lips and blew on it gently. The cool breath sweeping over the ointment-covered skin made Chloe freeze completely. Her chaotic internal monologue flat. I looked up to find her staring at me, dazed. "Sorry, I didn't mean to. Force of habit." As I let go of her hand, she looked visibly disappointed. "It's fine. I'll head back now." I stood up and grabbed her bento bag. "I'll walk you out. I have a meeting this afternoon, so I can't drive you back." She obediently walked beside me, her inner voice oddly quiet for once. My current company was still growing, and at this hour it was usually nap break time. So few people were around. But today, the moment I stepped out of my office, I found the bullpen fully staffed. I was speechless. I swear attendance wasn't even this perfect during mandatory meetings. Chloe was caught off guard by the synchronized turning of dozens of heads. "Hubby's employees work so hard. Are they looking at us? Do they think we look good together?" If I knew I'd have an audience, I would have worn a cuter outfit. A tactical error. I'll get the hang of this after coming a few more times. Hubby wouldn't mind if I came more often, right? He didn't say no, so he doesn't mind. It's decided. I glanced at the girl directing a whole movie in her head and smiled. "Let's go. Ignore them. They're probably just curious to see what my wife looks like." I placed a hand hovering near her shoulder, mindful of her waist sensitivity, to guide her out. But Chloe clearly had other plans. She paused, took a tiny half step back, and deliberately bumped right into my chest. I felt a rush of warmth against my side. We hugged! We hugged! Hubby is too much of a gentleman. It's so frustrating. But that's okay. I'll make the first move. Does hubby have pecs? They must look amazing. Wonder when he'll let me touch them. Even a peek would be fine. I quickly steered her out the door to interrupt her escalating thirst. "Did you drive?" "Yeah, I drove myself. I'll head back on my own." Watching her car disappear, I finally headed back inside to tackle my workload. Instead of going home, Chloe went straight to Mia. "Yes, I bought the combat gear, but I didn't get to use it," she whined. She was utterly clueless about romance and desperately needed her tactician. Mia, a bona fide rich kid turned beauty lifestyle influencer, was currently sipping tea at her regular luxury cafe. When Chloe walked in, the part-time barista greeted them cheerfully. Chloe smiled, thanked her, and found Mia. Mia waved. "Hey, gorgeous, where are you coming from?" "Oh my gosh, how did you know I just came from having lunch with my hubby?" "No coffee for me, my hubby just made me tea." Mia stared at her, deadpan. "I only know you came from your husband's place now because you just told me. Are you here just to flex?" She looked at Chloe's unapologetically radiant face and couldn't comprehend it. How could Liam endure 2 years of marriage with this stunning, naive girl and not claim her? She mentally noted to ask Zach if Liam had some. Meanwhile, back in my office, I aggressively sneezed 3 times. I grumbled. "I bought them afternoon tea. Why are they still cursing me? These kids are getting out of hand." Mia stared silently at the expectant Chloe for a long moment before speaking. "You're telling me you two have been married for 2 years, and you're still doing this pure love high school crush routine? You haven't even held hands properly? If all else fails, just get on the bus before buying the ticket. Sleep together first." Chloe was a bit swayed. "Honestly, I thought about that too. But Liam," she blinked, thinking hard. "I think he's respecting me in our relationship." Mia slammed the table. This isn't about respect. Looking at you every day and doing nothing. Is he impotent? You have the face, the body, the brains, well, scratch the brains. You lose all your IQ around him. You are the perfect wife, and he's playing pure love? Mia, if she had a gorgeous, hopelessly in love wife like Chloe, she'd lock her in the bedroom and do things to her all day. Chloe couldn't take it anymore. My hubby is not impotent. Stop saying that. Mia immediately apologized. Sorry, my mouth lacks a filter. I didn't mean it like that. She knew how fiercely protective Chloe was of Liam. Mia pulled out her phone and shoved it in Chloe's face. Let me show you some adult educational materials. Pure love is fine, but I highly recommend you just jump his bones. Really? Is this how it works? Does this seem right? Chloe felt Mia was a bit unhinged. She was 26. She knew basic biology. But the idea of jumping his bones secretly appealed to her, even if she was too cowardly to actually do it. After scrolling, Chloe handed the phone back, her face glowing a suspicious shade of pink. I feel like I need a valid excuse. I can't just use these tricks out of nowhere. Mia looked at Chloe's blushing face. How is this girl ever going to take the initiative? She sighed. It's June. Your school goes on summer break next month. Just say you're celebrating summer break. Mia couldn't think of any other holidays. Chloe's birthday was in September, Liam's in March. Finding an excuse was tough. Chloe shook her head. No, Liam's birthday is in March. That's too far. Mia sighed heavily. Just get drunk, pretend you're wasted and stumble into his room. Problem solved. Chloe stared at Mia with her massive, innocent eyes. Mia stared back. Finally, unable to outstare those giant peepers, Mia looked away, taking a deep breath. Ugh, fine. What do you want to do then? I worked late and didn't make it home for dinner, grabbing takeout with the team instead. By the time I finished, it was past 8 p.m., but the office was still packed with people working overtime. Usually, I'd stay and clear out the low-priority files too. But today, remembering Chloe showing up with that bento box, I decided to call it a night. Sitting in my car, I hesitated before calling her. She picked up quickly, her voice lifting cheerfully at the end of her sentences. Do you want late-night snacks? I'm heading back now. I didn't even realize I was smiling. Chloe hesitated, then whispered, but I'm not that hungry yet, and it's early. If I say no now, does that mean I miss my chance to eat with you tonight? I froze, then quickly said, of course not. If you think it's too early, I'll come home first and we can go out later. Okay, I'll wait for you at home. Hearing, I'll wait for you at home, my mood skyrocketed. Hanging up, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. Look at you, grinning like an absolute idiot. You've never been wooed before, have you? I got home shortly after. Opening the door, I saw Chloe literally bounce off the sofa, flashing a devastatingly sweet smile. You're back! I gave an and said, I'm back. Chloe trotted over, smelling of sweet floral perfume, and looked up at me with sparkling eyes. Do you want to shower first? It's still early. Then, out of nowhere, her inner voice piped up. I wonder if hubby likes this innocent girl next door vibe? I really hope he does. I had to suppress a laugh. Before, if I asked myself what my type was, I'd draw a blank. But hearing her thoughts and catching her sneaking glances at me, my lips curled up on their own. With zero hesitation this time, even on the second floor, I could hear her inner voice screaming, acting like a kid who just won the lottery because her husband complimented her. I changed into a simple t-shirt and jeans. Coming downstairs, I saw she had changed too. By pure coincidence, we were wearing matching black and white t-shirts. It looked like couples' outfits. I raised an eyebrow and smiled. What do you want to eat? Let's go. Kanji. There's a kanji place across from the neighborhood. Listening to her, I realized there were quite a few shops nearby. I rarely paid attention to these things, but Chloe sounded like a regular. Do you eat late-night snacks often? Sometimes. If I get back from the lab late or get hungry reading at night, I go. The evening breeze rustled the girl's hair. We walked shoulder to shoulder down the summer streets. The weather was nice, the stars were out, and we were both in high spirits. This sparked a memory. Early in our marriage, Chloe had tentatively knocked on my door to ask if I wanted late-night snacks. I was usually busy and didn't have the habit of eating late, so I politely declined. I couldn't even remember her expression back then. I probably didn't even look at her properly. So, after being rejected, she just went out to eat all by herself? Thinking of this, I couldn't help but look at her a few more times. Maybe because I hadn't responded, she turned to look at me, catching my gaze. She paused, touching her face. Is there something on my face? No. Has anyone ever told you how pretty you are? I smiled. Then I got a front row seat to the invention of the steam engine. Within minutes, the girl's face was beet red, her eyes darted everywhere, and she started stuttering. Really? I guess. Her brain was a mess. Whenever she made eye contact with me, she lost control of her thoughts and her mouth. Since I'm so pretty, can I hold your... It's not a bad deal for you, right? Her voice grew quieter and quieter as her internal screaming reached a crescendo of regret. I laughed, reaching out to grasp her delicate hand. I didn't have much experience with girls, and I was afraid of moving too fast and scaring her off. If you want anything, you can just tell me directly. The girl, who was currently mentally kicking herself for her word vomit, felt her hand being held. She looked like she was about to spontaneously combust. She gave a haughty little hum in acknowledgement. I don't think she processed a word I said, but her tiny, soft hand wasn't behaving. It wiggled in my palm. I didn't know what she was doing, so I relaxed my grip. Her fingers slowly shimmied between mine until our hands were perfectly intertwined. She gave our locked hands a happy little swing, tilted her head, and smiled softly at me. I couldn't help but smile back. I assumed she hadn't heard my advice about being direct since she was too busy blushing. But the moment we sat down in the kanji shop, she dropped a bomb. Since you said I can just tell you directly what I want. I nodded, defenseless. Go ahead. Mom and Dad told us to hurry up and give them a baby. She stared straight at me. I looked at her, utterly floored. I said be direct, not drop a tactical nuke, going straight to making babies. I clearly saw the massive gap between us. Chloe's mind was incredibly pure. Not stupid, just pure. Probably because her sheltered environment was vastly different from my world of shrewd businessmen. Seeing my reaction, she panicked slightly. Was that too direct? But there's no need for a build-up, right? Did you forget? We're going to your parents' house for dinner tomorrow. We had a terrible relationship for 2 years, but we still visited my parents for dinner once a month. I know. You don't have class tomorrow afternoon, right? You remember my schedule? Her voice hitched with joy. I'll wait for you at home. I just wanted to give you a heads up that they might bring up the baby thing again. You remembering my schedule equals you caring about me. Caring about me means you have me in your heart. Having me in your heart means you like me. I told hubby about the baby pressure early so he can prepare. It's all my fault for not being persuasive enough. Before I could use being too busy as an excuse, but they won't buy it this time. How am I supposed to climb into hubby's bed otherwise? This is the only logical excuse I could think of. Oh, so that's why. My initial feelings of guilt and heaviness instantly evaporated into amusement. I glanced up at her. She was staring at me eagerly, failing to hide the absolute infatuation in her eyes. Catching my gaze, she startled, blushed, and quickly looked away. I scooped some kanji into her bowl. Then, if mom and dad bring it up, tell them to talk to me. Or just say I'm the one who doesn't want kids yet. She froze. I actually don't mind. Mom and dad are reasonable. They probably just think since we've been married for 2 years. How else am I supposed to sleep in hubby's bed? That took me forever to think of. My turn to freeze. My mood took an unexpectedly delightful turn. I casually remarked, you mentioned you lived alone abroad. Have you always valued your personal space? It was fine. I was young and my mom lived with me for a while. I only got my own room when I got older and used to the lifestyle. Why is hubby asking this? Am I overthinking again? I really do value my personal space, but I don't dare say it. Just imagine if I say that, there's a 1% chance hubby invites me to move into his room. It's late, let a girl dream. Hubby is so gentle tonight, I dare to dream big. I really wanted to laugh. Her inner monologues were solid gold. Watching this girl mentally debate what pajamas to wear if we moved in together, how does a respectable professor have a mind running on R-rated dial-up? Do you want to move in with me? I asked, slowly. Stop fantasizing. I'm officially inviting you to move in. The hyperactive inner voice slammed the brakes. Her already huge eyes went completely round, staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Of course, I added. I'm just asking for your opinion. If you don't want to, that's fine. I just think since we're married, she cut me off. Yes, she immediately slapped a hand over her mouth, looking down awkwardly, stammering. I mean, we've been married for 2 years. Since we're trying to cultivate our relationship, moving in together makes sense, right? She shot me a quick, nervous glance. I love these little micro-expressions. Like a stray kitten cautiously testing a human's boundaries. The deafening internal screaming was getting a bit... And don't worry, until our feelings reach that point, I won't do anything to you. The screaming stopped instantly. What does that mean? Why won't he do anything to me? Am I ugly? Am I not sexy enough? I'm not afraid of you doing something. I'm afraid you won't do anything. Whatever. Get in the room first. Figure out the rest later. Black tights, white tights, sheer tights. I aggressively pushed a side dish toward her to stop the impending flood of unholy thoughts. Eat up. Seafood kanji gets gross when it's cold. We'll talk about moving rooms tomorrow after we get back from my parents. I could literally go back and move right now. I could check in tonight. Despite the mental shrieking, outwardly she gave a modest nod. Whatever works for you. My schedule is flexible. I couldn't suppress my grin. Eat, eat. After the kanji, we strolled back home. It wasn't too late. Cars were still passing by. We chatted aimlessly. I realized that even without her mind-reading broadcast, our normal conversations were natural and fun. At our respective bedroom doors, she said, "Good night," while internally sobbing. Is hubby really not going to ask me to move in tonight? I don't even have that much stuff. Just drag my body in there. I didn't indulge her this time. I just smiled and said goodnight. I needed a minute to accept the fact that I was getting a roommate. The next day I was swamped, but I made sure to leave on time. I even bought a huge bouquet of roses on the way. Chloe was already dressed and waiting. When I handed her the flowers, she said, "Mom likes lilies. I thought these were for Professor Lin." I know, and I know you like tulips, but they were sold out. These roses are for you. Next time, tulips. The girl holding the flowers looked up, sheer joy radiating from her face. For me? My heart ached slightly seeing her so surprised. Yes, for you. Do you like them? I love them, she said without hesitation. I super love them. Hubby's first time giving me flowers. I'm going to preserve them. I'll take them to the lab and turn them into eternal flowers. I smiled. If you like them, I'll buy you flowers every day. That's a waste. A bouquet lasts a week or 2. Can you just make it a weekly thing? She didn't act coy, just stared at me with those bright, expectant eyes. Because getting flowers from you makes me happy for a whole week, maybe even longer. This direct strike hit me out of nowhere, slamming right into my heart. My pulse scrambled. No problem. I'll pick them out personally next time. That's wonderful. I'll be happy for a very, very long time. I felt my heart racing. It was like experiencing the rush of seeing her for the very first time all over again. I finally understood what she meant by falling in love with the same person repeatedly. It was real. Looking at her face, which was prettier than the flowers, I touched my nose and smiled. So, is the happy Professor Joe ready to go home with me? Chloe felt she was beyond saving. Many people called her Professor Joe, but coming from my mouth, it sounded so incredibly intimate and flirty. Yes. Let me just put the flowers away. She turned, blushing, and jogged into her room, carefully placing them on the table, gently stroking the red petals. The 999th time Chloe has fallen for Liam. Maybe my dream will come true soon. This was the most sincere inner thought I had heard, far removed from her usual chaotic rambling. Watching her graceful silhouette, I wondered how deep her love ran to count to 999. My heart hammered against my ribs. Let's go. Don't want to keep Mom and Dad waiting. After petting the roses, Chloe was practically skipping back to me. I held out my hand, palm up, and smiled. Can we hold hands? Those 4 words made her freeze, stare at my hand, and then grab it without a second of hesitation. Of course! Hearing her mentally humming a happy tune again, I realized she didn't need grand, gentlemanly gestures. Simple physical contact made her ecstatic. The drive to my parents' house took about half an hour. When I led Chloe through the door, hand in hand, my mom, Professor Lin, was watering plants. She glanced up. Oh, the young master has returned. Then her eyes locked onto our joined hands. She happily dropped the watering can and waved. Chloe, come to Mom. Have you lost weight? Mom. Chloe greeted sweetly, mentally groaning about having to let go of my hand, but she walked over anyway. I called out Mom too, then complained, Mom, your favoritism is showing. Calling her Chloe so sweetly and calling me young master? That casual use of her first name made Chloe blush, shooting me a shy look. I glanced back naturally. Yep, tease her once and The contrast was hilarious. Professor Lin was thrilled to see us flirting. She found her deadbeat son slightly more tolerable today. She grabbed both our hands. Our Chloe is so pale, don't let her get tanned. Liam, go help your dad cook. Mom, I'll help, Chloe offered quickly. Liam just got off work. My heart aches for hubby. He just finished work and has to cook? Can hubby even cook? Oh God, I kind of want to taste it. I realized my mom was actively trying to get rid of me. I hadn't cooked a day in my life at this house. I was already deducting points from myself mentally. All right, I'll go cook. You ladies relax. Yay, hubby can cook. Hubby works so hard. I'll give him a massage when we get home. What if he says no? Figure it out later. Hearing the promise of a massage put a spring in my step as I marched into the kitchen. Professor Dad, Arthur heard my footsteps. The young master has returned. Chloe poked her head in. Dad, thanks for cooking. My dad's teasing expression instantly morphed into pure paternal warmth. It's no trouble, Chloe. Go sit in the living room. I made your favorite garlic mushrooms. Watching my parents interact with her, it took me 2 years to realize that in this family, my wife was vastly more popular than I was. Once Chloe left, Dad side-eyed me. What are you looking at? She's gone. Acting like a pair of newlyweds. Well, we basically are, I thought, turning back. Need help washing veggies? Dad asked about my work and life as usual, then pivoted sharply. How are things with Chloe? Pretty good, I said casually, tossing a mushroom into the pan. Why? Dad frowned slightly. Are you wearing the jade pendant I gave you last time? I sensed something weird. The topic shifted too fast. Yeah, I only take it off to shower and sleep. I sighed. Dad, you're a professor. Why are you so superstitious? Dad looked relieved. What do you know? I pulled a lot of strings to get that for you. Keep wearing it. It's good for both of you. He paused. Have you noticed anything unusual while wearing it? An unusual jade pendant. What, does it have radiation? I was about to brush it off when a thought struck me. I started hearing Chloe's inner voice shortly after I started wearing this pendant. Was it real magic? I stayed quiet for a second, then probed. Lately, I've been feeling mentally off, like I can hear voices. I watched Dad's face closely. Dad was busy stir-frying. His expression didn't change. Then get some rest. Go see a doctor. Seeing his reaction, I frowned. Did I overthink it? It really had nothing to do with him. Dinner went smoothly. The atmosphere was great. But then Professor Lin dropped the bomb right at the table. Liam, yeah? I placed a piece of mushroom in Chloe's bowl, watching her blush and listening to her joyful mental bubbles. It was so entertaining. You're not getting any younger. When are you and Chloe planning to have a baby? A direct hit. Your sister and brother-in-law barely see each other once a month, whatever. But you and Chloe see each other every day. Chloe quickly chimed in. Mom, Dad, it's because I've been too busy. Professor Lin cut her off. Don't cover for him. I can check your teaching schedule at the university anytime. I sighed. Mom, I was just too busy before. That was before. What about now? My mom's mind was sharp. What about now? Hubby, do you want to make a baby? I'm ready to cooperate anytime. I cast a half smile at Chloe, who was mentally acting up again. Professor Joe sat there looking perfectly dignified, completely innocent, and wonderfully pale-skinned. I smiled. I'm not busy anymore, but don't rush us. Let nature take its course. Pressure makes it harder. What does hubby mean? Is it true? I can do it. Hubby, I can go pull out all the gear Mia gave me tonight. Hubby, hubby! After dinner, we watched TV with the professors for a bit before heading home. On the drive back, I waited for her to bring up the massage. She didn't, not even in her head. So when we got home, I dramatically stretched and rubbed my shoulder. That was obvious enough, right? Chloe noticed. She hesitated, then finally spoke. I learned some massage techniques from the female teachers at school. Do you want to try? Unlicensed but highly effective. Hubby, please try. If you don't, I'll be so sad. Hubby cooks, I massage. Perfect match. I'm so considerate. Give me a chance to show off, please. Hearing her mental whining, I smiled. Then I'll trouble you, Chloe. That casual use of her first name made her eyes go wide. Hubby called me Chloe. Chloe, when hubby says it, it hits different. I'm melting. I watched her face turn increasingly red as her thoughts grew wilder. Finally, Professor Joe couldn't take it anymore. I'll come find you in a bit, she stammered, fleeing the scene. Watching her awkwardly run upstairs, I instantly regretted teasing her. She was so shy, what if she bailed on the massage? An hour later, there was a knock on my door. I smiled, walking over to open it. But seeing the person standing there, I froze. The girl was wearing a short, white silk slip dress. Those long, slender legs made it impossible to look away. I admit I was envious of her jet black hair, which I could now freely touch. "Liam, I'm here for the massage." She shook a bottle of massage oil, her voice soft. "You're here for my life," I thought. "I want to just pull you inside." Chloe stood at the door, fighting the urge to tug her dress down. I wonder if hubby likes this. Why isn't he moving? Is he not going to let me in? My heart dear is dying of a concussion. "Hubby, open the door. Come in. Or do you want to go to your room?" Even though I knew she 100% did not want to change rooms, it was polite to ask. Chloe didn't hesitate, marching straight in. "No, your room has a bed, it's easier for you." I noted her flushed side profile but didn't say anything, habitually shutting the door behind her. I didn't lock it. As the door clicked shut, Chloe's mental broadcast went live. Hubby closed the door. Is he going to do naughty things to me? So shy. But hubby, I'm ready. I wanted to eat strawberries today but couldn't buy any. I wonder if hubby is willing to plant some strawberries, hickeys on me? I had to press my hand to my mouth to stop my grin from splitting my face. Chloe's large eyes darted around. Last time I was too nervous to look. This will be my room soon. I wonder when hubby will tell me to move in. Did he forget? I need to remind him later. Her face remained remarkably stoic. "Take off your shirt and lie face down on the bed." Hubby's body must be amazing. He felt like he had abs last time. I didn't expect her to be so direct. Without any fuss, I pulled off my shirt. I worked out regularly, so my six-pack was pretty defined. As I took off my shirt, the outwardly calm Chloe started screaming internally. Fearing the massage would be too loud mentally, I casually took off the jade pendant. Instantly, the room went dead silent. Was it a coincidence? Or, I looked at the pendant in my hand and put it back on. Still no sound. Chloe noticed. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." I shook my head. Was it really a coincidence? I took the pendant off again and lay face down on the bed. Dad had specifically asked about it today, saying it was good for us. It made me suspicious. But right now wasn't the time to experiment. Just as I was thinking, I felt a pair of soft, warm hands, slick with massage oil, pressed gently onto my shoulders. I reflexively tensed up. It felt like someone had delicately grabbed my neck. Sensing this, Chloe whispered, "Uncomfortable? Relax, my technique is good. I used to do this for my mom." Her voice lacked its daytime chill, replaced by a sultry softness. But I still couldn't hear her inner voice. I glanced at the pendant. If it wasn't too weird, I would have put it back on to test the theory. I sighed, slowly relaxing my muscles, and turned my head to look at Chloe, who was leaning over me. But this angle was problematic. The view was too good. I instinctively wanted to shift, but lying flat made that difficult. As she applied more pressure, Chloe leaned in closer. She was genuinely focused on the massage at first. Her face was burning, but her hands were steady. Because she was so focused, she didn't realize how close she was getting. She was practically kneeling on my bed now. After a while, she asked, "Is the pressure?" She was currently hoping I'd realize she had many hidden talents and fall in love with her. She had entirely forgotten her initial plan to seduce me, dedicating herself fully to being a masseuse. But sometimes, unintentional seduction is the most lethal kind. My eyes traced her knees resting on the bed, her pale legs against my dark blue sheets. She looked perfectly at home on my bed. "It's perfect," I grunted. Then she leaned in even further. Suddenly, lying flat became extremely uncomfortable, mostly because something was being crushed. I tried to shift, but her soft hands glided smoothly down my spine, sending a jolt of electricity through me before settling on my lower back. "You sit in an office all day. Your lower back must be stiff, right?" "Actually, my lower back is excellent. What man admits his lower back is bad? It's fine," I reflexively retorted. Then I flipped over and my lips brushed against something slightly firm. The person leaning over me instantly froze, then shot up like a startled cat. Chloe instinctively covered her chest, her eyes wide with shock, confusion, and deep embarrassment. Her face turned explosive red. I was slightly dazed, still processing what just happened. Seeing her reaction, I figured it out. "Sorry," I said awkwardly. I wasn't paying attention. It was a flimsy excuse and my own face was burning. I immediately sat up, grabbing a small throw pillow to place on my lap. The movement was abrupt and obvious. Chloe's massive eyes dropped to my lower half, making me even more mortified. "Sorry, adult male biology. I didn't mean to offend you." I kept my eyes strictly on her face, too afraid to look anywhere else. The situation was agonizingly awkward. Chloe was still kneeling, face red, hands covering her chest, staring at me. She wasn't entirely clueless. She knew exactly what that biological reaction meant. She swallowed hard. A saying flashed through her mind: "Fortune favors the bold, the timid starve." Her long eyelashes fluttered, and she gently bit her pink lip. She felt like she was burning up, but she looked up at me to break the silence. "We are husband and wife. We said we'd try." "So, physical contact is part of trying, right?" "Huh?" I was too busy being embarrassed to process her logic. She didn't give me time to react. Taking a deep breath, she threw her hands out, planted them on my shoulders, and smelling of floral perfume, lunged at me. I instinctively reached out and grabbed her slender waist. Wow, her waist is insanely tiny, was my first thought. Then, I felt a pair of soft lips land on the corner of my mouth. Probably due to nerves, she missed my actual lips, but the girl was stubborn. A second later, she adjusted, and her lips crashed directly onto mine. The air vanished. Breathing became difficult. It was Chloe's first time kissing anyone. She realized it wasn't exactly like the books described. Her heart was racing, and our touching lips tasted like honey. She finally understood why people liked kissing. It wasn't until I gently squeezed her waist that a tiny gasp escaped her sealed lips. Then, I felt her trying to push me away. Her oil-slicked hand slipped against my skin. I let go of her waist. "Free!" Chloe gasped for air, her face completely flushed. I chuckled, my voice incredibly soft. "Idiot! How can you not know how to breathe?" Chloe sounded defiant. This is my first time. I'll get the hang of it after a few more tries. The corners of her eyes were flushed a deep, fiery red. The tears welling in them made her look incredibly seductive yet pitiful. Unable to handle her gaze, I reached out and covered her eyes. Her face was so small, covering her eyes made the lower half of her face look even tinier, emphasizing her swollen, red lips. If all you want tonight is a kiss, then stop looking at me like that. I'm not a saint, I sighed, sounding helpless. Because I knew how highly she thought of me, I actually felt a twinge of guilt. If I were 18, I wouldn't think twice. I'd do the deed and figure the rest out later. But at 28, I had to consider the consequences. I had to give her a chance to back out, because her love and devotion were so pure. I felt her long eyelashes brush against my palm, then her ravishingly red lips parted. Liam, I really like you. I've secretly liked you for a very, very long time, since the first moment I saw you. Her skin felt blazing hot. I froze, keeping my hand over her eyes, but my grip softened. It seemed the physical barrier gave her courage. The girl who usually only dared to scream in her head was finally saying it all out loud. I might not know how to date, because I've never tried. My life is boring and monotonous. But you are the only exception. Liam, I don't know if I give you everything and we really get together. Actually, I'm terrified. I have a lot of bold ideas, but they're just ideas. Liam, can you take it slow with me? I'm a little scared. Her voice trembled. She thought finally crossing the line would be fulfilling, but that kiss made her realize how terrifying the unknown was. I stroked her hair. It's okay, don't rush. We'll take our time. You don't need to be afraid. Eventually, Chloe grew too embarrassed and her emotional high crashed. Covering her face, she squeaked, "Good night," and bolted. I was frustrated I couldn't hear her inner voice anymore. Her frantic mental commentary during her escape would have been hilarious. But it was a shame I still hadn't figured out the mystery of the disappearing mind reading. Once Chloe left, the heavy romantic atmosphere vanished. I sat on the bed, feeling the sticky residue of the massage oil. Finally, I got up and went back to the shower. Back in her room, Chloe immediately regretted running away. She looked at her red, teary-eyed eyes and red nose in the mirror, then touched her swollen lips. They still felt like they tasted like him. "You're so useless, Chloe. You were already kissing. You were right there. Why did you chicken out?" But remembering Liam's gentle words, a smile crept back onto her face. Hubby is so gentle. Note, the text from the original transcript bizarrely repeats itself here. So, let's treat it as a flashback montage, echoing in Liam's mind as he thinks back on the wild events of the past few days. As I stood in the shower, my mind flashed back to the absurdity of how this all started. On the way to get our divorce, I suddenly discovered that I could hear my wife's inner thoughts. My aloof, emotionally constipated, ice queen of a wife was looking at me with a surface-level expression of sheer disgust. But inside her head, a completely different voice was screaming, "Hubby, I don't want a divorce!" What if I say I have a tummy ache right now? Will that work? "Hubby, don't leave me. A gorgeous girl with fair skin and long legs like me. If someone else picks me up off the streets, they are absolutely not returning me to you." And then I thought about tonight. Chloe, wearing the combat gear she bought a few days ago, appearing before my bedroom door. I wonder if hubby likes this. Why isn't he moving? Is he not gonna let me in? My heart, dear, is dying of a concussion. "Hubby, open the door. Do you want a wife or not? Your wife is right here. Let her in." I couldn't hold it back. I chuckled and stepped aside. "Come in. Or do you want to go to your room?" The next morning, carrying the jade pendant I studied all night to no avail, I walked into the living room. Breakfast was beautifully plated on the table, but Chloe was nowhere to be found. She left a cute sticky note. "Good morning, hubby. I went to campus early. I don't have morning classes, but I'm too embarrassed to see you right now." Looking at her neat handwriting, I could picture her shy, flushed, yet defiant expression perfectly. I finished the love breakfast my wife made, carefully pocketed the sticky note, and headed to work with a spring in my step. At the office, my assistant, Leo, had bought breakfast for me. "I don't need it, you eat it." I ate at home. Leo must have still been half asleep. "Wow, boss, you work so hard and still wake up early to cook?" I usually thought my assistant was pretty sharp. Why did he sound so dumb today? I smiled confidently. "I didn't wake up early, the boss's wife made it. Bring me today's schedule." I walked into my office, feeling like he just got aggressively force-fed dog food PDA. Leo muttered to himself, "The boss's wife woke up early to cook for you? What kind of modern-day perfect housewife is this?" I worked through the morning. While texting Chloe, I checked her teaching schedule. Her last class of the day was a large elective physics lecture. Thinking about her absolute mortification last night, I worried she might be too scared to come home tonight. I mentally reviewed my afternoon schedule. I could make it for the last half of her class. Before the day ended, I called Leo in. "I'm heading out early. Anything non-urgent can wait until tomorrow." As Leo nodded, I asked, "By the way, where do you usually buy flowers around here?" After getting the address, I left, calculating that I had just enough time to buy a bouquet. Staring at my retreating back, Leo pulled out his phone and frantically opened the company group chat. "Brothers and sisters, alert! The iron tree has blossomed. The boss is acting exactly like a man in love." I had just reached the underground parking garage and saw the message pop up on my lock screen. I replied to the group with the default passive-aggressive smiley face emoji. Instantly, Leo's message was recalled. I went to the flower shop, bought beautiful tulips, and drove straight to Jingcheng University. I originally thought an elective physics class wouldn't attract many people. It was physics, after all. But I severely underestimated my wife's charm. The large lecture hall was practically overflowing, and mostly with male students. I guess I was that age once. Having a gorgeous young professor is a universal draw, but I thought physics would weed some of them out. Guess I was wrong. Because I arrived during the second half of the class, there were 0 empty seats. Even the back row was packed with guys. I overheard a conversation. Should we leave? Professor Joe is going to do Q&A next, but there's only one class a week. She's usually hiding in the lab. I heard that computer science genius is going to confess to her after class. Teacher-student romance. Isn't she married? Probably a rumor to keep guys away. No one's ever seen her husband. I didn't expect to catch such premium gossip just by walking in. My wife is very popular. I finally found an empty seat in the middle section and sat down. Soon, the bell rang. The chatter died down. As a tall silhouette walked through the door, the room fell dead silent. The woman walking in was tall and stunning, her face devoid of any smile, projecting a chilling aura. It made the hormonal young men unable to tear their eyes away. Looking at Professor Joe on the podium, I thought, if my college professors looked like that, I might have actually liked physics. Who doesn't have a teacher-student fantasy? Chloe tapped the podium lightly with her slender fingers. All right, class is starting. Quiet down. I was mesmerized by her serious, stern little... Ugh, I wonder if hubby is working overtime tonight. I really want to eat dinner with him. Or sleep with him. I'm cool with that too. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Classic Professor Joe. All business on the outside, totally unhinged on the inside. My laugh drew her gaze. She swept the room and suddenly froze, her eyes locking onto me like a laser. Ah, my giant husband. When did he get here? Why didn't anyone tell me? Do I look pretty today? Ah, I never look pretty when I'm teaching. What do I do? What do I do? The students only saw the notoriously strict Professor Joe suddenly fixate on a specific spot in the room. Her expression didn't change, but her intimidating aura seemed to vanish completely. I simply stared back at her, a slow smile spreading across my face. So, without walls and doors blocking us, I could hear her inner voice perfectly at this distance. Chloe, calm down. No big deal. You've seen big crowds. But before, I could treat the students like cabbages. Now there's a whole hubby sitting there. I can't look away. Despite the internal panic, she awkwardly shifted her gaze, her voice noticeably softer than before. Standard rules. Q&A time. Professor, no pop quiz. Let's just do Q&A. The students cheered, thrilled to escape her usual interrogations. This way, hubby will think I'm a gentle teacher. I'm actually not that strict anyway. Q&A it is. Just raise your hands. I really just came to see her teach. I had no intention of causing trouble, especially since I sucked at physics. So I sat back and watched my wife answer questions like a boss. The guy who spammed the school forum confessing to Professor Joe, the computer science god. Yeah, supposedly a genius. Went to college at 16, he's 19 now and in his second year of grad school. Hearing the gossip, I looked at the boy. He had that skinny, youthful look of a teenager, but his face carried an arrogant smirk. His eyes were glued to Chloe. From my angle, I could only see his profile. Chloe didn't even know who Chad was. She was just mentally complaining. Why isn't class over yet? I want to go cuddle hubby. Cuddle hubby. Seeing the students stand there in silence, she asked, do you have a question? If not, please don't waste your classmates' time. Get out of here, kid. Stop keeping me from my hubby. Chad was very confident. He blurted out, Professor Joe, do you have a boyfriend? The classroom erupted in whispers. The guys in the back started hooting. Ooh, a confession! Chloe's face instantly darkened. I've said before, I don't answer questions unrelated to the class. I thought my public university profile made it clear. I am married. She raised her slender right hand, proudly displaying the ring on her ring finger. She's actually married? Many people thought it was just an excuse to ward off suitors since she was so young and pretty, and no one had ever seen a husband. I watched Chloe. Aside from her initial surprise, she was remarkably calm. I was curious to see how she'd handle this, especially since this Chad kid was clearly trying to make a grand public gesture. Chad confidently pushed on. Professor, it's a shame. I don't believe you're married. I just wanted to ask. Chloe cut him off sharply. Student, this behavior disrupts the class. Are you leaving on your own? Or do I need to call security to escort you out? She stood up straight, sweeping her fierce gaze across the room. I don't know why some of you are taking this class, but since you're here, you follow my rules. I only answer academic questions. Everyone's time is valuable. Do not waste our time to satisfy your personal curiosity again. Just as she finished, the dismissal bell rang. The whispering and hooting completely stopped. Class dismissed, she said coldly. Ugh, is hubby going to think I'm a flirt attracting bees and butterflies? Chloe gripped her textbook tighter, maintaining her icy facade as she walked out. At the door, she peeked over her shoulder to ensure I was following. Once I fell into step behind her, amidst the whispers of the students, her pace noticeably lightened. Her moods were so easy to read. How did I never notice before? We were walking single file, but Chloe intentionally slowed down. Why isn't hubby walking next to me? It's fine, I'll just walk slower. I sped up and matched her pace. Ah, we're walking side by side. How do I start a conversation? Should I ask how my class was? No, today's class was a mess. Then what? I wish I could Google this. Waiting online, very urgent. I chuckled and broke the ice. Professor Joe. Chloe snapped her head toward me, eyes sparkling. Liam, why are you here? Ah, almost called him hubby. I really want to. Is it okay if I just scream it in my head? Hubby, hubby, hubby! The hallway was still crowded with students. I noticed practically every guy who passed by couldn't help but stare at Chloe. My wife's popularity was truly something else. Am I old? I teased. The cold, aloof professor shattered instantly, looking flustered. No, I didn't mean. I remembered how hard she worked to maintain that Ice Queen persona. I couldn't let it crumble here. Ah, I quickly pivoted. Where's your office? I had to protect her reputation. If people found out the Ice Queen was actually a whiny baby, she'd attract even more weirdos. I'd be paranoid at work worrying about snot-nosed kids confessing to her. Chloe noticed the staring students and quickly composed her face. At the end of the hall, I want to hold hubby's hand so bad, but I have to play the part. Thank God I am a mature, emotionally detached professor. Just hold on. Once we're in the office, I'll close the door, lock it, block the sun, and pounce. Yes, that's the plan. If she actually said that out loud, I'd be thrilled. Sadly, she was a chronic all-bark, no-bite mastermind. Before we reached the end of the hall, I heard footsteps behind us. Chad had chased us down. Chloe's internal roller coaster screeched to a halt. She turned around, already frowning. Chad stopped in front of us, giving me a weird look before turning to the slightly flushed Chloe. Professor Joe, I need to talk to you. He glanced at me again. Shouldn't this guy leave? Chad probably thought I was a grad student or something, just older looking. I understood his silent dismissal, but I didn't budge. During class, I stayed quiet to respect her teaching. Class was over now. Like hell, I was going to stand by while my wife got hit on. The clowns from the Goblin family wouldn't even do that. Is there a problem? Chloe asked coldly. If it's personal, skip it. I won't answer. If it's academics, leave a message on my faculty page. I check it daily. Hurry up and leave. Stop blocking me from cuddling my hubby. My courage is fading. If you stay any longer, I'll chicken out. I smiled, looking at her cold profile, contrasting it with her frantic thoughts. Chad was stunned. Seeing her turn to leave, he reached out to grab her wrist. My hand shot out, intercepting his before he even brushed her. Hey kid, that's incredibly rude. My wife is off the clock. This is her personal time. Both Chloe and Chad whipped their heads to look at me. Chloe stared blankly for a second before a wave of smug, utter joy washed over her face. She literally could not stop smiling. Seeing her look so goofy, I pulled her against my side. Stop smiling. You look like a dork. Where's the professor act now? Chad couldn't believe it. The married excuse was real. And this guy was the husband. Chloe chimed in, sounding incredibly smug. My husband and I are going to eat. If you need help, go to the website. We touched. Hubby and I are practically making out right now. The serious professor from 2 minutes ago was back to spouting nonsense in her head. Hubby. I finally get to call him hubby. If we're calling each other hubby and wifey, kissing is totally logical, right? And if we kiss, touching is fine too. And if we touch, this is not a child, I realized. Her face is blushing, but her brain is running on pure R-rated fuel. Chad slinked away, thoroughly defeated. Exactly what I wanted. I kept my arm around Chloe as we walked to her office. Her internal monologue finally quieted down. She shared an office, but it was empty right now. She pushed the door open. Come in. I was highly anticipating the lock the door and pounce sequence she plotted earlier. Sadly, Professor Joe was indeed a keyboard warrior of the mind. She closed the door, didn't lock it, and looked up at me tentatively. Did you just tell that student I'm your wife? Isn't that the truth? Did I misspeak? I raised my hand, wiggling my ring finger to show off the matching band. It was a weird, unspoken agreement. We had a terrible marriage, but neither of us ever took the rings off. Suddenly, Chloe grabbed my hand, slowly intertwining our fingers. She looked up, her face burning red. You didn't misspeak. Our rings are pretty, right? I was surprised by how ecstatic she sounded over one simple sentence. I nodded. Yes, very pretty. I made this one. Remember when I told you I went to pick out rings? I actually made them. It took me a long time. Looking at the ring, I was suddenly at a loss for words. I always thought we had a flash marriage. Met, married 3 months later. I thought the rings were store-bought. We didn't even take wedding photos. I never knew she spent so much time crafting these rings. And probably much more. I'm sorry. I didn't know. My voice was dry. It's okay, I never told you. I know you're busy. You've always been busy. Sometimes I get a little sad, but just a little. Hubby looks so handsome when he works. It'd be nice if he thought of me sometimes, or came home for our anniversary. But it's okay. The obedient child gets the candy. He's not busy now, and he came to pick me up. Hearing her mentally comfort herself and make excuses for me made my chest ache. I squeezed her hand and pulled her firmly into my arms. Whatever sadness, she had vanished instantly. He hugged me. Hubby hugged me. I love him even more today. Plus 100 points for hubby. I kissed her forehead gently. You should have told me. I didn't know. I thought you preferred us keeping a polite distance. Even the rings. She looked up, interrupting me, her voice shy and quiet. It's in the past, but if you want to apologize, you can kiss me. I wouldn't mind. I chuckled, gently brushing the hair from her cheek. She looked like a deer caught in headlights. As I leaned in, she instinctively leaned back. I snaked an arm around her lower back to steady her. Why are you hiding? Didn't you say a kiss would earn your forgiveness? I felt her stiffen as I touched her waist, then she blushed furiously. Her body went soft. But in here? The door isn't locked. What if someone walks in? Office play? I don't think I can handle it. But pushing hubby away? I definitely can't handle that. What do I do? Should I just close my eyes? Her panicked thoughts were hilarious. She was so loud in her head during such a romantic moment. I chose the easiest solution. I kissed her. Instantly, the mental chatter died. I stared into her shocked, wide eyes for 3 seconds, then moved my hand to cover them. The girl obediently tilted her head up, letting me kiss her. I pulled her closer, feeling her small hands nervously grip the sides of my shirt. Like a kitten, too scared to use claws, but holding on tight. If hubby wants to do office play, should I say yes or should I say yes? So shy! I finally pulled back, trailing kisses to the corners of her reddened eyes. They looked so incredibly pitiful and cute. Her eyelashes fluttered, and she finally closed her eyes, burying her face in my chest. Some things are highly addictive once you start. Like kissing. I looked down at her. The mood was perfect. It was a shame to ruin it. But I had to say it. Can you stop groping me? Even through the fabric, feeling someone actively feeling up your abs is distracting. Oops, busted, she thought. Then, with completely unwarranted confidence, she mumbled into my chest. But You touched my waist, so I'm just returning the favor. You're big on equal exchange, aren't you? I laughed. We made eye contact. She tried to look away, but forced herself to stare back, trying to look brave. If my eyes are big enough, I'll look confident. The more she acted like this, the more I wanted to tease her. Forget the equal exchange. Let's talk about why you called me Liam earlier. The falsely confident balloon deflated instantly. Emergency! My brain has 0 RAM. Hubby is staring at me. I can't think of anything. My brain is just full of hubby. Finally, she squeezed her eyes shut and confessed, I wanted to call you hubby, but I was afraid you'd ignore me and it would be awkward. I paused, then laughed. Well, how about you just call me hubby from now on? I smiled, my tone light and coaxing. She froze, her eyes snapping open to meet mine. The tension drained from her body and her lips curled into an uncontrollable smile. Okay! Turns out, being direct is the most comfortable way to communicate. We weren't used to it yet, but we were making progress. I checked the time. Let's clean up and go eat. Boxed lunches suck. I don't want crispy pork rice. She grabbed her bag. As we walked out, I looked at her purse. Should I carry that for you? I've seen guys hold their girlfriend's bags while shopping. She looked at me, then at the bag. But I picked this bag to match my outfit. She bravely linked her arm through mine. It doesn't match your outfit at all, but that's okay. My best accessory today is you. Hubby and I are the perfect match. Why hold a bag when you can hold me? Her weird possessiveness was amusing and incredibly flattering. Damn, I'm getting assimilated into her thought process. I used to think her thoughts were bizarre. Now I find myself agreeing with them. Is this the boiling frog effect? My car was in the outdoor lot, requiring us to walk across campus. I hadn't been here much, so I was enjoying the stroll. Seeing my interest, Chloe found a normal topic. Why didn't you go to school here? I laughed. To escape my parents. What kid doesn't want to escape their parents' control? My family was full of academic elites. I was the incredibly average outlier. I knew I didn't have the temperament for research. But parents always want to pave the road for their kids. I had a happy childhood, spoiled by my parents and sister, so I never had a massive rebellious phase. Still, I couldn't stand being micromanaged. Chloe couldn't relate. I honestly don't understand that mindset. I looked at her. She was dead serious. Every path I've taken was planned by my parents. Except marrying you. I did that myself, she paused. My mom accompanied me abroad. She was a corporate executive, but she quit for me. I knew I was important to them, so I had to be obedient. Something felt off. I knew a bit about her background. Wealthy family. Dad was a bank exec before he died of a stroke, leaving behind a lot of assets. Her mom was a housewife. I'd met my mother-in-law maybe 3 times. She was always freezing cold. I used to think Chloe inherited her personality. Does your mom not like me? I asked. If Chloe was their prized, meticulously crafted masterpiece, my mother-in-law probably looked down on me, a guy running a tiny startup 2 years ago. We reached the car. I opened the passenger door for her. Chloe saw the tulips on the seat, and her face lit up. She grabbed them. For me? I nodded. For you, like I promised. Do you like them? She smiled until her eyes were crescent moons. I love them. I super love them. Looking at her joy, I felt the trip was worth it. Just as I was feeling sentimental, she leaned in on her tiptoes and kissed my cheek. Liam, I'm so happy. I was getting used to these surprise direct attacks. I touched the spot she kissed, teasing her. That's it? I thought you'd at least kiss here. I tapped my lips. Because she was young and thin-skinned, she blushed. Later, when we go home. I love cuddling and kissing hubby. This is a reward. If we weren't outs, I swear I'd glue myself to him. Try prying me off, I dare you. You're all talk, I thought. But I didn't tease her further. I gestured for her to get in and asked what she wanted to eat. No hesitation this time. Hot pot, let's go! I nodded. There are a few places near the commercial district. I didn't press the question about her mother. Her dodging the topic was answer enough. But sitting in the passenger seat, hugging her flowers, she was humming so loudly I didn't even need the radio. And man, she was tone deaf. Suddenly, she said, it doesn't matter if my mom likes you or not, because I'm the one marrying you and spending my life with you. In her eyes, nobody is good enough for me anyway. My parents think I'm amazing, but what's so amazing about me? All I know how to do is study. You actually lived in the real world. I'm just hiding in an ivory tower. I frowned. You do research. Don't put yourself down. You are more capable than most people. I couldn't understand a word of your lecture today. That's different. You make a living with your own 2 hands. What do I have? If I hit my head and lose my brain, I'm nothing. I heard the deep insecurity in her voice. It was bizarre. How could a brilliant, privileged prodigy have such low self-esteem? Your contribution to society is undeniable, I said firmly. Earning a living is great, but your brain and your knowledge are part of you. You can't separate yourself from your intelligence. How can someone as amazing as you think you have nothing? I briefly paused to mock myself for ignoring her looks for a second, then refocused. You're incredible. Anyone else hearing you say that would think you're humble bragging. Chloe laughed. I'm not. Compared to you, all I can do is study. I don't know how to do anything else. You know how to take care of yourself, and you use what you learn to teach others. That's amazing. But I don't want you to put us in different categories. Her voice dropped. I want us to be a we. My brain worked quickly. In our little family, you're the amazing one, too. You're the one who takes care of me, right? Instantly, her face brightened. The frown vanished. This girl was so easy to coax. One sentence completely cured her melancholy. Through the entire hot pot dinner, she was glowing. Maybe my comment about her taking care of me triggered something, because she practically spoon-fed me the entire meal. I was thrilled, happily playing along with her urge to be the caretaker. I had figured it out. Chloe was essentially a child at heart. When she said she didn't know how to interact with people, she meant it. But that naive, unfiltered honesty was exactly why she was so endearing. She thought I liked the aloof, intellectual type and forced herself to play that role for 2 years. Anyone with half a brain would have tested the waters, or just asked. It just goes to show. She had grown up so sheltered, she had never been tricked by anyone before, and now she's all mine.